Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar about how to design your outdoor kitchen. This will be a great resource if you're taking on that project. We have with us today Steve Scheinkoff, our CEO, and Francesco Froyo, who's our general manager. Just some housekeeping notes before we get started. We will be recording and sharing this presentation today. So just keep that in mind as you jot down notes. You'll get the full recording and presentation emailed over to you. You can find all of our previous webinars on our YouTube channel. Lots of great resources there about how to start kitchen projects and so many other really important topics. And with that out of the way, let's actually one more note. Do use the Q&A feature in Zoom to send in any questions that pop up along the way. We'll have time for Q&A at the end of the presentation, and we'll answer all the questions that came in during registration as well. And with that out of the way, I'll turn it over to Steve Scheinkoff.
All right, fantastic. Thank you, Pat. Thanks everybody for joining in on how to design your outdoor kitchen, a framework for getting it done right. You can do it. Let's look at some pictures. Let's just start and look at some pictures like this one. This looks pretty good, doesn't it? Except it's got one problem, and you will be able to identify that problem very easily. This, as I look at this, it looks like a store display almost, but the house is on the other side. We're going to get into that in a second. How about this one? I have a lighting background. We're going to get into lighting a little bit in this webinar. And I like the way they lit this outside, but it's still got a couple problems here that it could be done better, and we'll identify those at the end. How about this one? You see a lot of grills and Kamados together, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. But there's a fairly big problem in this setup as well. And how about this? How putting an outside kitchen inside your house? You can do it, although you can do it a little better than this. And we're going to redesign all of those kitchens. And here's a good one. Now, we have a lot of designers on this call, and just so you know, the kitchen triangle of cooking is live and well in a galley style. This is one of the 4 configurations we'll talk about a little bit later, with your sink, entertaining, and then your cooking station on the left-hand side. This is still good design. So for a lot of you that are designing on the inside of your house on this call, some of the same principles still apply. So this is yet another one where we're cooking and entertaining on one side and cooking on the other one, but let's get started, okay? So sitting down with somebody is, getting this done is very easy. What is the entertainment strategy? Right? What are we doing in the backyard? Before we get started and designing pizza ovens and everything, what are we doing? Are we just cooking there? Are we cooking and dining? What do we like to cook? I mean, how far is the grill from the house? The further out, the more stuff you probably want, so you don't go back and forth. What do you like to cook? So basically, the questions you should be asking is, where's it located? How much space do you have? And what do you want to do? Because over the last few years, I'm going to show you can really do anything on the inside, you can do on the outside and more, right? And here, for the people that aren't designers, here are the people that could be involved. The more elaborate you're going to get, you're going to need a plumber to plumb the natural gas if that's the way you go. You're going to need, if you've got sinks and faucets, you're going to need a plumber for that. Electricians to wire up any accessories, appliances, refrigerators that you put out there. But here are the number of people that can help you. Like you could do DIY with appliance stores and cabinet makers, or we can go the architect builder road, depending on how elaborate you want to get. So let's start, right? First framework is we want to protect, you want to be protected certainly by the elements, rain or snow here in the winter if you like to grill outside. But the other thing is we're going to get into venting a lot in this presentation, but you want to take an idea of what are the prevailing winds in this backyard, because what we don't want to do is take a huge grill, a Kamado or griddle or whatever have you, and channel that smoke into your house, right? So if possible, we want the wind to blow the smoke away from the house, not into the house like this. Worse comes to worse, you don't want to snorkel the air into somebody's house. So just be in mind of the conditions of wind, prevailing wind, and to keep it covered during the rain if you or your client want to grill in the rain or snow. The other thing we need to be mindful is the fuel types. Gas, natural gas for the gas grill, and any number of accessories. People putting ice makers, sinks, and faucets, you need water lines for those. You also need electrical for the ignitions. A lot of people like to charge their iPhones out there. Any accessories, refrigerators, beverage centers, refrigerator drawers, any number of things. So we want to plan on that, or keep that in mind, right? And not have to do that later. Okay, lighting. I'm going to show you a couple different sides of lighting. First of all, really to light anything well is to cross illuminate from either side, so you're not shadowing over a grill. And I think lighting is really underserved on the outside, because people putting these pro grills that are cooking so fast, and the difference between medium and medium rare could be a number of seconds. You want to be able to see that. So if you're designing a space for yourself, or you're decorating a space, just couple cross illumination. You don't need task lighting for really much of else. You don't need task lighting to even eat by, really. You can use accent lighting as they employ here. The other thing here's a good little hack, right? Used to love designing lighting tape. It's high intensity. A lot of you probably know this, putting them in your token. It's just tape. You cut the tape. It's got high output LEDs. You can put them anywhere. It's nice accent lighting. Can't see by it over your grill, but it's good. It's good safety lighting. It's good accent lighting. Put it anywhere, under cabinets, under toe kicks, inside or outside. I used to use that a lot when we sold lighting here for the years that I did, up until about 4 years ago. Venting is the new hot button. There's been a lot of publicity about gas, with the nitrous oxide, carbon monoxide, particulate matter, formaldehyde that comes from gas. And a grill is a stove on steroids, really. So how you vent is very important. I'm not a big fan of 3-season porch with grills. I think the stuff should be outside. However, if you're going to do that, as a lot of people do, you need a high CFM hood of 1,200 to 1,500. That's CFM is cubic foot per minute, or how many cubes of air exhausted per minute. You need 12 to 1,500 at least. Capture is where a lot of people go wrong, especially inside. People cook on the outside, and typically the grill is about 26 inches. Plus, you need to plan a little space for granite behind, so when people open the cover, they're not hitting the wall. So you need a 27-inch deep to cover that grill and something good CFM. And the other thing is, venting is straight up or straight back. No bends, because that reduces the static flow. Please, no downdrafts. And you see that inside. And really take venting seriously, especially if you're putting it inside a house or inside a 3-season porch. Okay, let's talk about the grill types. We're going to do a separate webinar just covering grill types, but I have to go over it because you should know it, and your clients are going to be asking, depending on who I'm talking to here. But a grill is the one thing you can say about grills is it's fast, it's easy to clean. Your basic gas grill is 6,000 to 10,000 BTU per burner, with multiple, usually 2 to 4 burners. The one thing that gas grills can't do is they can't add flavor or texture, right? So the difference between a gas grill and a pro gas grill, the pro gas grill, are 22 to 25,000 BTUs per burner. So you have a much higher output. You also have the infrared sears. And what a sear is a direct heat to sear quickly. Gas diffuses heat, infrared directs it. So it's the best type of sear you can get. And you can get that in a pro gas grill. On the right, you have what is the finest grill made. This is a Kalamazoo grill. It has the deep well, so it has a natural convection. But if you take a look underneath the cover, that's a separate drawer where you can add wood and charcoal to really add flavor and texture with the speed of gas. That's the best gas grill. Now, again, it should be at 25,000, but for someone who really loves to grill, that grill is certainly worth the while. It's all custom made as well in the United States. Now we get to charcoal, my favorite grill. It was the one on the right. I used to have a Smoky Joe. Charcoal is fast. It adds flavor. It adds texture to it. The problem with charcoal is cleaning, and you always have to refill that charcoal, and it can be uneven in spots. But it's a great, it's like gas, harder to clean gas. It's a little bit more uneven. Now, you can get the Kamados. Big Green Egg is popular. Kamado Joe. Those are ceramic, so you can control the temperature. And something like a Kamado is you can cook more sophisticated. You can smoke. You can do low and slow. You can bake. You can broil. You can really do anything in a Kamado, more sophisticated. The problem is that there is a learning curve to it, right? Which is why you see a lot of outside kitchens like this with the grill for speed cooking. Like if you're cooking a lot of hot dogs, hamburgers, gas grills are perfect for that. More sophisticated cooking, you would do a Kamado. Or our next one, which is pellets. Pellets have become really popular. But what a pellet is really an electric convection that's fueled by flavored pellets. It's great for adding flavor. It's good for smoking. A lot of them have really sophisticated Wi-Fi, so you can track it on your phone. But the one thing you cannot do, and this is why pellets get a lot of heat. A lot of people really don't like them, because if you want to throw a hamburger and a hot dog on, it's going to work like your oven, because that's what it is, electric convection with flavored pellets. So low and slow, yes. Grilling, they call themselves a grill. They really aren't a grill because they can't reach that 900-degree temperature. Now the new thing, we just cooked on this. Griddles I love. I mean, I tell the story of working at Yale back in the 70s, and there used to be a luncheonette. This guy made everything: omelets, bacon, pancakes. We made Philly cheesesteaks on it last week. A griddle can do anything, but it can't sear like a grill can. This is the new Traeger, wonderful item, easy for grease collection at the bottom. But you can do anything on a griddle, and this is we're gonna have some videos of us using it. This is something that's that's become a lot more popular, certainly with Blackstone, and now Traeger. Weber just introduced theirs. Definitely a consideration. And again, once it is, cooking options are limitless. You have almost every company now makes a pizza oven, but the other thing is side burners. So you can boil the corn as you cook on the grill. Those are popular. Warming doors underneath to keep things warm. And again, for the appliance side, really anything: beer taps, refrigerator drawers, refrigerators, sinks, faucets. Just make sure they're commercially rated so they don't rust. And that's especially important here in New England. So let's get into the different types of common configurations. You're looking at an L shape, suitably named because it's an L. And we'll get into each one of these styles. This is one of the more popular. This is just a bank of cabinets to cook on. It's called the island style. We have a grill and any number of accessories that you can put to the right, to the left of it. Again, what you want to do, here's the thing with placement is you're not cooking with plates like you would in a kitchen. You're cooking with platters. So either on the left or the right, what you want to do is make sure that the landing for that platter is big enough, to support it. Like you don't want to have like little counter spaces like you would say in a galley kitchen in Boston. You want to have bigger spaces to hold platters. Then you have the L shape where you can entertain on the left side and add a few more accessories. And then you have where you have even more. I don't particularly like this picture because it seems like you're entertaining with the Hatfield McCoy is one on either side, but you do have more opportunities to put more appliances in and have a bigger space to entertain. And then we get to the galley. This is an interesting picture when I don't do the PowerPoints. I saw this download and it's kind of like backwards, because one thing you want to do when you entertain is you don't want to grill and have the smoke go in your guest's face. So it's backwards. They should have the grill on the left and the entertainment on the left, on the right. The reason why they did that is because I would imagine there's a room over, you can't vent through the room. even so, they got the wrong hood anyway, because that hood is too shallow with not enough depth and probably not CM. It's just a regular range hood. But typically galley will give you a good galley will give you the ability to cook and entertain, 2 spots. And just remember, the best piece of advice, I know if some of you are from Kalamazoo and you gave it to me, so I'll give you credit for it, is to really chalk it off. Before you dig a hole, is to figure out what configuration, what you want, put the grill in the middle, centralize that, and just figure out, just chalk it off. And it's okay to do a number of different things, whether it's L, island, galley, U, and see what you want to do and chalk it off, and then build from there, right? So let's talk about materials. For countertops, you can't put everything in there. Decton's like the new thing. Quartz and limestone are good. Here's Decton's pitch, but let's forget about their pitch and just talk about what's needed. Is high UV resistance, scratch resistance, certainly resistant to fire and heat, and a resistance to ice and thawing that you don't need to worry about in your overall kitchen. For cabinets, you have any number of cabinet solutions, but just make sure it's a weather resistant metal. And a lot of manufacturers, if you want to do it yourself, you got a lot of do-it-yourself solutions. This is a Heston island. You buy it as an island. You wire it. You buy it as you wire it up for it. You would need the ignition. You would need the electric for the ignition, the gas for the burners, and the grill. You would need water lines for the beer tap, and then just plunk the island on it. That's stainless steel, right? And a lot of companies have that. Lynx, Kalamazoo. Probably the most popular right now is Urban Bonfire. They make it easy because they have all the configurations from island to U, L, and they understand the grills that go in there. You just plug and play with them. This is another Urban Bonfire. Again, you get a number of different finishes. We show a lot of that in our stores. I'm sure there's other RTAs, but just make sure they're weather resistant. And remember, last but not least, especially in New England, you want to make sure you maintain that grill, cover it, shut off all the power and water, and uninstall and store your appliances. So here are your key takeaways. First thing is, what's our strategy? I mean, how are we using that outside space, right? And then you pick your partners, depending on how elaborate you want to go, and really mind your reference and rough it out, and then chalk it off. And just remember to use weather resistant materials if we're talking about Boston, and then maintain it. I like this picture, except if the wind's blowing it out of the house, they're going to have a bunch of smoke there, but it's still pretty good ideas of what a good island looks like. We have a bunch of resources, the barbecue buyer's guide. We've got a bunch of recipes. One of my best friends is a professional griller, and he gave us a bunch of recipes we put up there. This is another galley style right here on your right. And they put actually a smoker, if you take a look at it on the left-hand side there. Remember, you can do this. This is a great picture of a good hood over Kalamazoo, lit properly. And let's go over what we can do here. As you know now, the problem with this one is there's not enough counter space. So the faux stuff that they put on that on the grill, let's just say it's real food. Where are you going to put that? So how I would redesign it, if that's right next to the house, you probably don't need the side burners. I just move the grill to the left and just add some counter space. And it all depends what you or the customer is doing. Here on the right, I mean, they lit it pretty well, except over the place they needed to light it the most, and you would want to cross illuminate it. And depending on the way the wind blows, we want to vent it. The difference between, I mean, I have a presentation from last year, and the difference between last year and this year is, now that we know what gas, all the emissions of gas, we ought to really be mindful of that, especially if the wind isn't blowing it away. This one is, they did everything right, except, and most people would know that the outside burner on the right-hand side, that's 70,000 BTUs. That's more than most ranges most 30-inch ranges sold are under 70,000. So you really want to vent that, or make sure the wind is blowing it out, okay? Because you don't want that in your house. You don't want 70,000 BTUs of smoke, grease, and toxic fumes. You don't want to design it in somebody's house. So just be careful. Now, First question you have to ask is, do you really need all this stuff inside your house if your kitchen's like next door? But if you take a look at it, they can plan it a lot better. Because if you're sitting on that sofa watching TV, you're looking at the back of a refrigerator. And what they did was really interesting. Instead of buying just the grill head, what they did is they bought the whole thing with the cart and wheeled it into space. If they built it in a cabinet, then you see on the right-hand side, that's a warming drawer. They could put the warming drawer underneath it, right? And move the refrigerator over so it's at least a little bit neater, where the person on the right isn't looking at the back. But again, centrally, and everybody's different, is, do you need the stuff? If the next room's got a dishwasher, do you need a dishwasher? And maybe you do. So, but if you're a designer, it's a good question to ask, the proximity between the two. And the last thing is, don't do this. This is really a way to make an inside space very unhealthy. If people have a problem with gas ranges, if you're not venting a gas grill, you're going to have 3 to 4 times the amount of problems than you would in a regular stove. Is this good? Once again, for the designers over there, the kitchen triangle of sink, stove still works. I'd still be a little bit more mindful of burners and making sure on the right-hand side. And that's kind of where I differ in the presentations, as I said before. It's just the boiling corn and it's outside, it's fine to a certain degree. If the wind blows it away. I like this because once again, you're protecting your client from, or you're protecting yourself from the elements in a nice outside space. This one I like because for some reasons, because the best way to do it is just let it go to the outside. I mean, they managed either by design or accident to cross illuminate the grill very well. The only thing they didn't do is protect from the elements. But you know, again, you have to make provisions either by setting forth to your client or provisions for yourself. So with that in mind, that's how to design a outside space. And I will bring it back to you, Pat. We've got some really, really interesting questions that we're going to be answering.
Yeah, thanks so much, Steve. Yeah, if you have any questions, make sure to pop them in the Q&A in the Zoom window there. We did get a bunch of questions during registration. We'll just get into it. Steve, you talked about it, but you mentioned we have a question about marine grade grills, marine grade stainless steel. What is that? What's the difference between a more conventional product, and why is that important?
Well, there's no such thing as marine grade. It's like a marketing term. But what it is either a composition of metals to make it stronger to withstand, or as commonly they apply a terrain finish to retard the rusting. You know, we have a Kalamazoo outside that's done a really nice job of not rusting outside, and we're in Dorchester, but typically marine grade is gonna, it will, they call it pea bagging, so it'll stain a little bit, but it's not gonna rot out the way a regular a gas appliance would.
Grant, anything on that one? We hear that question all the time with our
Yeah.
proximity to the Cape, and Steve mentioned our showroom right on the shore in Dorchester there.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're planning a kitchen like that and you're close to salt water and just in an area that's near that, you definitely want to plan for it. And nothing's perfect. Nothing's going to make it 100% rust proof or anything like that. But when you have marine grade stainless steel, it certainly will help prevent that corrosion more so than just a standard 304 grade stainless steel outdoor grill. So we always recommend, and Kalamazoo does a lot of these as well. And if you're investing all that money, it definitely makes sense to invest a little bit more and get the higher quality stainless steel if you're that close to salt water in that sort of outdoors area there. So I would always recommend that because, again, definitely not 100% rust proof, but definitely will help prevent corrosion over time.
Yeah, you'll still be able to cook on it for years. And I have two schools of thought. Is I'll never forget, we sell Lynx, and I love that grill, but that can't withstand the outside. We had a customer that returned one because it was just, because they were on a peninsula. And but the other side is that you have to understand that marine grade Kalamazoo is very, very expensive. It's got to be what, 25, 30 grand anyway. So it's not for everybody. You have to maybe get a Weber or a couple Webers and just plan on obsolescence, I guess. Or you spend for Kalamazoo. Those are your two choices, really.
Great. We had a question come in the Q&A. Can you use a pizza stone on a grill, or do you think a separate pizza oven is better? What would be the difference there?
The pizza ovens are just fantastic. I mean, you can do multiple pizzas. I think you fire it up and then you can do multiple pizzas with great crusts. That said, Weber's got that OGS where you can put a pizza stone on there. But I don't think that the temperature is you can cook pizza on it, but I don't think the temperature is as constant. How can it be? Because it's over a bunch of different burners. I think it depends on how you like your pizza. But the pizza ovens are fantastic.
Yeah, that's definitely the main difference, more that temperature and just being able to cook multiples in a quick time frame and not having to wait again for those to kind of get back up to temperature. So yeah, I mean, you can definitely do, the pizza stone is a really nice accessory to have, but if you're really a pizza aficionado and you really want to kind of like cooking pizzas outdoors on the grills, a pizza oven is definitely something to look at for sure.
Yeah, I think that goes back to your, what's your entertainment strategy, Steve?
Right.
That it can become a focal point in your outdoor kitchen if that's what you're looking to do.
And it all depends. Again, if you're doing it just occasionally, I'm sure the pizza stone's fine. You have to wait for it if it's just one pizza. But if you really like to entertain, there's endless amounts of pizza options.
We had a question about, and you showed a couple of examples, Steve. The question about barbecue grills versus griddles. We've seen these kind of freestanding griddles have become more popular. There's obviously built-in griddle options. But what goes into somebody considering choosing, either or both? When does it make sense for those types of decisions?
Well, I'm completely impressed with the griddle. I've always loved a griddle. From my days of being a kid and watching a guy just be a wizard on it. And Pat's uncle Bobby swears by his griddle, and we had him cook pancakes, bacon, Philly cheesesteaks, vegetables to go in the Philly cheesesteaks, and it did just a great job. Now, the one thing it can't do is it can't like sear or char the way a grill can. But it really depends what you like to cook on it, right? And how you want the food to look like. If you want like that burnt, seared kind of thing, then the grill's excellent for that. If you want to cook a lot of different items, especially now you get accessories for grill where you can do that kind of. But if you're cooking like a lot of veggies, fruit, even hot dogs, I think, depending on how you like them cooked, smaller things that get in between the grate, shrimp, I think are better on a griddle.
Yeah.
Quite candidly. I'm really impressed with griddles, quite honestly.
Way more just the flexibility of it. I mean, that is definitely the major difference there for sure.
Do we want to segue in then? You showed the Traeger option in your presentation, Steve. That's a new product. And we, like you mentioned, we just kind of put that through its paces just last week. How do we see that comparing to other griddles?
First of all, I like I like the Blackstone, which is inexpensive, to be honest. But the Traeger's better. Traeger's better, and it should be. It's $8.99 versus $4.99 for the same thing. But just to break it down of what a Traeger will do, and all these have a really nice solid cast iron. You got to season them, right? But one thing Traeger does is it's got the 3 zones, so you can cook different temperatures in theory. But other than the construction, the great thing about it, you can accessorize either one of them. Certainly a little better with the Traeger. But in terms of construction, but grease disposing, like the one thing that Blackstone, and I love that griddle, and I wouldn't dissuade him from it. It's like, it's almost an add-on. It's like this little square thing in the back that you got to scrape to the back, pick up to the back. What Traeger did that I thought was really good was you scrape it to the front, and it's an easily removable like jug for lack of a better word.
Mhm.
So you can cook forever and not overflow this thing. And the problem with the Blackstone is from what I could see, is you could easily, obviously overflow that. And if you got a nice, if you've got a nice deck where you're actually cooking on it, might be a problem to get that out. But both of them are good. The Traeger's better, but then again, you're talking about, for similar items, $400 more. So for, better construction and certainly better grease management, that's what you're getting for $400.
Let's go to, we had a question about ventilation. That was definitely a priority throughout the presentation, Steve. When you're talking about a grill, you want to just reiterate what type of ventilation do you need to make sure you account for with these pro style grills?
Yeah, that's a great question. And something, I should be more scarred by it. We had a new contractor once, didn't buy the stuff from us, right? Him and the homeowner were warring about their grill setup. And I don't want to get in the middle of it, but he asked me, because they were just trying to buy stuff from us, what I thought of setup. And before, this is a few years ago, so I picked up some chicken sausage at Whole Food, because I figured I didn't want to get in a debate. I just want to see if it cooked. And 3-season porch, they put a built-in hood, kind of like a wood hood blower in there. And I could say right there, it was going to cause a problem. Started cooking 3 sausages on there, and it smoked it up like that. So you got to be mindful. The other thing you got to be mindful of, which we discovered that day, is to make the cover go all the way back. You have to have like a little flange of like a couple inches, or otherwise it's going to slam against the wall. You got to make sure there's a play there, right? So really the average grill is, say, 25, 26 inches. You need at least a 27-inch deep hood. I would just max out, the difference between a 1200 and 1500 CFM is a couple $100. I just max out the CFM and do that. I mean, there's deeper hoods too, but 18 inches tall, 27 inches deep, 1500 CFM is really what I would go for a grill, to get that stuff out of your house.
Keep sending questions into the Q&A. We have a couple more to go through here. There was a question about brands. When we talk about outdoor rated products, what do people need to look for in terms of finding outdoor rated products? And are those different brands than they may be used to, or?
Yeah, on kind of like the under counter accessories or things like that. So they'll kind of really, some brands like, say, True, for example, that sells a lot of True Residential, that we sell a lot of indoor beverage centers, wine centers, ice makers, things like that. All their products are really, or their under counter products are really indoor and outdoor rated. So really better seal, not allowing moisture to kind of get into those. So that's kind of what the bigger difference is there. Even like a brand like a Sub-Zero will sell indoor and then separately outdoor rated products. So they'll be pretty clearly identified there. And really the biggest difference is that seal, because obviously outdoors, you're really more exposed to all the elements like rain and wind and everything like that. So they'll provide a much better seal to prevent those from getting in there as well.
Cool.
Yeah, just look you look for a UL listing, really. There's a lot of different manufacturers that make that.
Yep, cool. One more question from the Q&A. This is about grills. Any recommendations for a grill with a rotisserie? What goes into, what are different options there, I guess, would be a good follow-up to.
I tell you what I like. And a lot of them have very good rotisseries, but Heston can hold 50 pounds of meat, right? But what they do, which is really kind of cool, is they have, and a lot of them do, Lynx does and DCS does as well. But Heston has a variable infrared in the back, right? So as it's rotisserie, you're still getting that direct heat in back, and you go from 12 to, you got a variable infrared, which is unusual, of 12 to 18,000 BTUs. That's a pretty hefty rotisserie.
Cool. I think that's it for the questions we have so far. If nothing comes in the next minute, do you guys want to, Steve, you want to just maybe summarize your key takeaways, and then we can,
Yeah, really, the key takeaways stay the same, right? It's really figuring out what you want. That's the thing, right? Is what do you want to do outside? Because if you don't have a clear plan and you can't get out of your head, nobody can draw that out, right? And then, find the partners. You're going to need a electrician and plumbers. I say that like that's an easy thing, right? You're gonna need some tradespeople to help you. Certainly, if you're a designer or decorator, you just follow the process of the strategy, the options, right? The configurations, and then the materials, accounting for wind, chalking it off, so making sure that you or your client is comfortable with what it is you're designing or building, and just do that. I think all of it is about what you want and how you prepare for it. And once you do that, it's a pretty good process. And there's a lot of good, ready to assemble, a lot of good options for you to help you along the way, more so than ever. I mean, there's a lot of options in terms of products, more so than ever, but there's a lot of really interesting cabinet companies. Urban Bonfire would be one that you can just plug and play and not mess around with that if you wanted to do that as well.
thanks, Steve. We had a really good question. That would be a great place to stop. We had a great question come in though, that I think we should revisit. We had, the question is, we use our Weber to smoke with a rotisserie. Could you create a space for a Weber and a big green egg like you showed? You had a slide that had a grill with the ceramic cooker next door. Yeah, like that one, I think is what we're asked about. What goes into creating something like that? I know we have options like the Urban Bonfires. You can kind of talk about design there maybe.
Yeah, the problem with Weber, I would say that in whoever I'm talking to it's probably a cart, right? So it's probably a Weber on a cart. So I'm sure that it can be customized where you're just basically doing what I told you not to do here in this picture, putting in, just wheeling in between two spaces and then designing an egg right next to it, or a griddle, or whatever you want. It can be done. I don't see why not, right? Instead of that, you just cut the cabinets, wheel that thing in and put a hood over it, and then put that in there. Typically what people do is what they do in here is just, they build the cabinets underneath it, but there's nothing wrong with this picture other than they put so much stuff in, you gotta you've got to move around it to get into the next room. I mean, you can do this still. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but you can do that with a Weber. You can do that in your design.
All right, great. I think that will do it for today. We will be sharing this presentation and the recording with everybody at the email you used to register. It'll be on our YouTube channel as well very shortly. And you can find all of our previous webinars there as well. And with that, that'll do it for today. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.